extend a warm welcome to all of you to the seminar on the opening up of India's legal services sector, examining the current status and the way forward. I apologize for the slight delay in the start of this program. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you on behalf of OP Jindal Global University, Jindal Global Law School, as well as the Indiana University's Center on the Global Legal Profession. At the outset, it is a great privilege for us to be hosting the US Ambassador to India, His Excellency Ambassador Richard R. Verma. We also have just received regrets from Mr. Manan Kumar Mishra, the Chairman of the Bar Council of India, who was supposed to join us, but just 10 minutes ago, we were informed that he isn't keeping well and he has been advised to take complete rest, so we are going to miss him. But we are very fortunate that Mr. Sudhanshu Pandey, the Joint Secretary from the Ministry of Commerce, Government of India, has kindly accepted to be part of this inaugural session, but also will also participate in the panel discussion which will be followed by this inaugural session. For those of you who are being first introduced to the Jindal Global Law School and OP Jindal Global University, we are a university established through the philanthropic initiative of Mr. Naveen Jindal as a multidisciplinary research-oriented university in the year 2009, and we have grown into different schools, including in schools like law, business, international affairs, public policy, liberal arts and humanities. This issue relating to the legal services as well as its impact on legal education and legal profession has been a subject matter of great interest for our law school and for our university for a long time. In fact, one of the earliest panel discussions that we hosted was on 9th August 2009 in collaboration with Harvard Law School, in which some of the people who are speaking here, including Mr. Rajiv Luthra, had attended it. Since then, we have been actively engaged in this issue at multiple levels, and we are very fortunate today that we've been able to bring together a variety of individuals representing different institutions who are in many ways central to the debate and discussions surrounding the opening up of legal services. We are very fortunate that these individuals who have made themselves available today have not only contributed to this discussion, but also are at the vanguard of number of policy making processes, as well as their own firms engaging in these issues. So once again, we are very fortunate to have them. Without further ado, I want to invite my colleague and friend, Professor Jayant Krishnan, Professor of Law at Indiana University at the Maurer School of Law in Bloomington, who is also Director of the Center on the Global Legal Profession. On a more personal note, I will say that today is 11th August 2016. I met Jay on 11th August 2000, it was precisely 2006, and it's 10 years, and that was the day when we did the joint conference on access to justice, law, policy and institutions here at the India International Center, which is adjacent to this place, where the very founding ideas of Jindal Global Law School was promoted. And on that evening, here at Habitat Center, we discussed in more detail the framework of the law school and the university. So today is a very special day. We are commemorating the 10th anniversary of the promotion of the idea of Jindal Global Law School. And I am very fortunate that Jay is with us. And this collaboration between Jindal and Indiana has grown from strength to strength in the last 10 years. So Jay, I invite you to say a few words.
I'm honored. Our Center at Indiana University, our Center on the Global Legal Profession, is co-hosting this event with OP Jindal Global University. As the Vice Chancellor mentioned, today's symposium, I think, comes at an important moment in this discussion over how, when, and to what extent India should liberalize its legal services market. As many of us know, the Prime Minister himself has called for India to emerge as a hub for international arbitration and international business, similar to Geneva, Paris, London, and Singapore. Over a year ago, in fact, in April of 2015, Mr. Modi stated, quote, "We shouldn't think that if foreign lawyers come here, they will take away our jobs." And others too, both in and outside of government, have called on the Indian legal services market to be liberalized. But at the same time, other very thoughtful members of the Indian bar, many of whom are sitting here today, have raised important questions and concerns that relate to reciprocity, ensuring that there's a level playing field, advertising, and the importance of adhering to the Advocates Act of 1961, and whether or not it needs to be amended. And then earlier this year, the Bar Council of India came out with its draft rules, which appear to go a very long way towards enabling foreign law firms and foreign lawyers to work in India, like they have not done so in the past. So today's program will plan to examine these various issues with a group of incredibly thoughtful people who are key stakeholders in this debate and who hold a diverse array of views on this subject. We'll be introducing the members of our eminent roundtable shortly. But before doing so, for our inaugural session, I have the absolute privilege to introduce the Honorable Ambassador of the United States, Mr. Richard R. Ambassador Verma serves as the 25th United States Ambassador to India. He was nominated by President Obama in September 2014 and confirmed by the United States Senate in December 2014. Previously, Ambassador Verma was the Assistant Secretary of State for Legislative Affairs, where he led the State Department's efforts on Capitol Hill. He worked in the Senate for many years, serving as the National Security Advisor to the Senate Majority Leader, and he also worked in the House of Representatives. Ambassador Verma is a veteran of the United States Air Force, where he served on active duty as a judge advocate. His military decorations include the Meritorious Service Medal and Air Force Commendation Medal. The ambassador has also had a very distinguished career in the private sector, serving as a partner at the global law firm of Steptoe and Johnson and as senior counselor to the Albright Stonebridge Group. Ambassador Verma is the recipient of the State Department's Distinguished Service Award, the Council on Foreign Relations International Affairs Fellowship, and he was ranked by India Abroad as one of the 50 most influential Americans today. Ambassador Verma holds degrees from Georgetown University, American University, and Lehigh University. So let us all please welcome Ambassador Richard R.
We've worked with over the last couple of years since arriving in New Delhi on this really critical issue of legal services and the role that the law plays in India. I've been the ambassador, as the professor was saying, since December of 2014. Time flies, it really does. And it's really been an amazing kind of coming up on 2 years, and an amazing experience for me, both professionally and personally as well. My parents are from Punjab and immigrated to the United States in the 1960s. Truth be told, my dad always wanted me to go to medical school, not law school. Some of you may be familiar with that sentiment as well. I remember when I got confirmed as ambassador, a good friend of mine called me up and he said, okay, U.S. ambassador to India, finally, maybe your parents will stop pressuring you to go to medical school. Here's the one credential that will do it. But the law has had a big impact on my life. Being a lawyer has been a really great thing for me. I've enjoyed it. My wife is a lawyer. There's a lot of debates, spirited debates in our house. Our kids are probably tired of all the disputes that we try to resolve at the dinner table. And I did go through the confirmation process in the Senate fairly quickly. The chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee that handled South Asia at that time was the senator from Virginia, a guy named Tim Kaine. Some of you may be familiar. He's now running on the ticket with Hillary Clinton to be the vice presidential candidate on the Democratic side. You know, after my hearing before the Senate, Senator Kaine came up to me and he said, you know, we're really excited you're going to India. Glad this is working out. He said, I really have one question for you. You need to tell me about what I'm experiencing when I meet other Indian people in Virginia. He said, why is it that every person in Virginia, every Indian person seems to know every other Indian person in the world? He said, look, I know there's over 1 billion Indian people, but everyone in Virginia, they all know them. How is that possible? And I said to Senator Kaine, I said, you know, it's funny you mentioned that. I have had a similar experience growing up with my father, who, no matter who we met in the United States, could be someone driving a taxi in New York City. It could be the CEO of a company. My dad would always find some connection to this person. We're from the same town, we're from the same college. Your mother's auntie's best friend's sister is related to this person. And it didn't matter, finally, we gave up on this, trying to convince my dad that he didn't know everybody, or be connected with everyone. But that's what it was like growing up. He was really proud of his roots and really wanted to make sure we knew how connected India was. So just fast forward to the fall of 2009. I'm serving as the Assistant Secretary of State. I got a call from the White House saying, we'd like you to come to the White House to greet the Prime Minister of India, who's coming for a state dinner to Washington. Now this was pretty exciting. So I called my dad. I said, Dad, you're not going to believe this. I've been invited to the White House to meet the Prime Minister of India. He said, that's great, son. You make sure you tell him we're from the same place. Now, I said, I can't do that. I can't lie to the Prime Minister of India because, Dad, that's not true. He said, I'm telling you, make sure you tell him. He calls me the next day. He said, you're going to tell the Prime Minister this. I said, no, Dad, definitely not. I can't do this. Calls me the morning of the ceremony. I said, no, I'm sorry. So the morning of the ceremony comes, I get down to the White House, I'm pretty excited. There's about 12 of us there to greet the Prime Minister. He arrives, big delegation, I'm going through the line, it's my turn. President sees me, I knew him from the Senate, and he says, Mr. Prime Minister, this is Rich Verma, he's the Assistant Secretary of State. Prime Minister kind of pauses and he's looking at me from head to toe. He's kind of looking at me, eyeing me up and down. He says, your family is Indian. I said, yes, Mr. Prime Minister, my family is Indian. He then asked me, he said, where's your father from? I said, my father is from Jalandhar in Punjab. Prime Minister turns to the President, he said, his father and I are from the same place. Now the motto of this story is always listen to your parents. Because they generally are right. That is a true story. And I had the privilege of telling that story again to Prime Minister Singh just last year. And he got a good kick out of it. So, look, let me just talk to you for a few minutes about legal services and kind of what's on our mind here about liberalization of the sector and a few other issues in relation to the law. But this is not the first time I've spoken about this topic, and it won't be the last time. I really do believe for India to fulfill its global economic potential, it should participate in the gradual globalization of the legal profession. If you think about how frequently one encounters a transnational corporation with specific needs in an international office or a commercial contract where the supply chain might begin in Vietnam but has inputs from India, Mexico, and Korea before being sold in a market somewhere far away like my hometown in Pennsylvania. These days, transactions are just increasingly global and often require legal services from a variety of jurisdictions. It doesn't make any sense anymore to put up a wall and say, well, you can advise your client in these jurisdictions, but when it comes to this particular country or jurisdiction, you hand off the case or hand off the football to somebody else. And so, I think the discussions like this one we're having today are really important. And I want to congratulate Indiana University and Jindal Global University for advancing this dialogue. I know you guys have had a really important partnership. I'm glad this is a 10-year anniversary, at least between the two of you. I do want to say that we would like to do more in the field of higher education, especially with law schools, make the curriculums more compatible. We would like to see more law professors here. We would like to see more American law students here. We would like to see more Indian students studying law in the United States. And we were encouraged by the recent steps that the HRD ministry took to put out a new higher education policy. We're in discussions with the ministry about a new higher education MOU, which I think will help us advance this discussion even further. But I do think harmonizing some of our legal systems in our education will actually help when it comes to the professional services that are actually trying to be delivered. I think it will take out some of the mystique. Now, obviously, we have different systems of law, but certainly you ought to be able to come to our country, study for a semester, get credit for that, and return to your study of law, and our students ought to be able to do the same thing here, and I think that would be an important development. And again, we're working on that, and I hope some good news to report in the next couple months. As was mentioned, I've had the good fortune to practice law in the private sector. I started my career in the military. I was proud to be an Air Force judge advocate. When people say, oh, you were in the Air Force, what did you fly? I flew a desk for many years. Not a fighter airplane, but it was, I did try a couple dozen criminal cases. I handled aircraft accident investigations. I did law of war. I did Geneva convention training for our pilots that were going off to battle. I spent time in Washington with the military as well, so and with our fighter units that were being deployed. So it was really a terrific experience for me. Then went off to the private sector where I practiced international trade and regulatory compliance. I worked on Capitol Hill for many years in both the House and the Senate, but I never really left the law behind. And I still to this day draw upon that legal education, that rigorous kind of way of looking at problems. I think it probably drives my staff at the embassy crazy that I mark up the memos that they give me. I ask a lot of questions and don't always just accept the first answer that I'm given. And a lot of that comes from the training that we've all received of what it means to do to look at issues from all different angles. Where is the solution set? Where is the win-win? How do we get to a positive outcome? And we have those kinds of tough negotiations with the Indian government. For those of you studying law or thinking about studying law, whatever you end up doing in your career, and I've done a number of different things, your education in the law will serve you quite well. And I congratulate you for choosing the law and for those who have finished. Now let me just say a word about legal liberalization. But first, just a word on the partnership between the U.S. and India. I think some of you know that the Prime Minister and President have a good relationship, probably better than good. They've met some 7 times over the last 2 years. We've had 3 bilateral summits, which is a really unique thing in any bilateral relationship. To have your 2 heads of state get together and have 3 big summits is a really big deal. The President has referred to this relationship as one of the defining relationships of the 21st century. The Prime Minister recently said in Washington when he was addressing a joint session of Congress, he said, quote, "In every sector of India's forward march, I see the U.S. as an indispensable partner." He sees the U.S. as an indispensable partner. You think about, for anyone who has studied U.S.-India bilateral relations over the decades, we have come a really long way. And the trajectory is only upwards from here, and that's really exciting. And pivotal to this relationship has been our economic ties. 10 years ago, our bilateral trade was about $35 billion. Last year, it topped $107 billion. Bilateral investment has grown from about $8.5 billion 10 years ago to $35 billion last year. Last year, we had the highest number of visitors from India to the United States than ever before, 1.1 million. We had the highest number of students at 135,000. We broke the record in defense trade. We now are up $15 billion in defense goods. Even in agriculture, an area that used to divide us, we've done north of $6 billion in agricultural trade. So we're moving in a lot of directions, and just in the Prime Minister's visit in June, U.S. companies committed an additional $45 billion to be invested here in India in the next 2 to 3 years. Now, I mentioned that, and I mentioned the business ties because it's why we think this work that the Bar Council, the Society of Indian Law Firms, and so many others have been right to think about how to open the legal market as well, to go along with this great kind of surge in commercial ties. And I understand the Society of Independent Law Firms, which has been such a great leader in this field, is preparing some recommendations in the field of liberalization, and we'll continue to work with the Society of Independent Indian Law Firms as well as the Bar Council. Now, I just want to reiterate a couple points about liberalization. First, I do believe that liberalization of the legal sector will be mutually beneficial to both India and the United States. This isn't just about Indian or U.S. law firms and U.S. attorneys trying to gain a foothold here. I think this is about trying to be mutually beneficial. And I understand that some members of the bar in India have resisted this move towards liberalization out of concerns of being displaced by foreign firms. But my experience and my understanding of what the foreign firms are interested in is continuing to be in a joint partnership with Indian firms, not trying to take away work, but actually trying to add to the work, to bring to bear their expertise from the jurisdiction that they come from, whether it's France or the UK or Canada or the United States, come into good close partnership with Indian legal experts to serve their clients the best way they can. This is not about taking over market share. This is about how to provide the best possible legal advice to their clients. And our sense is that when firms are able to provide multi-jurisdictional, multidisciplinary advisory services, it's a win for both the legal profession, for the clients served, and for the economy. The second point I want to reiterate is that there is importance of implementing true reciprocity for practicing law here in India. And let me just try to be clear, and I know there's some dispute about this, but no state in the United States requires American citizenship to practice law. While not all state bars are reciprocal with one another, an attorney may be required to pass the bar of more than one state in order to practice in several states. This requirement is agnostic to citizenship. Americans and non-Americans alike are subject to the same requirements. All lawyers that practice in the U.S., regardless of citizenship, are offered the same set of requirements to practice law. I know and have met many excellent Indian lawyers that have passed the bar in the U.S. and that are really effective attorneys in both countries. Similarly, there are many American and other foreign lawyers capable of meeting the high licensing standards for the legal profession here in India. So I hope we can have a reciprocal arrangement. It doesn't have to be as complicated or as burdensome as I think people say it is. If there are walls, we should talk about how to bring them down in both countries. And I will also say this, that I know from my own experience how exceptional the quality of the lawyers are here in India and the quality of the legal work that is practiced here. I've had it in the private sector, I've seen it in government, I've really been so impressed. And I also believe that India's reputation as a center for innovation and entrepreneurship is attributed in part to the gifted lawyers that bolster the legal and commercial framework to launch ideas that are changing the way we live and the way we do business. The fact is, you've integrated with your clients, you've supported their innovations, their intellectual property, you've protected them in suits, you've done battle with them, and it's really helped bring Indian innovators to the forefront. And again, I think what today's roundtable offers is an opportunity to build trust and understanding, to learn from a wide range of respected professionals and academics, to take into account the variety of opinions. I understand this opening of the market is not going to happen in one fell swoop. It may have to occur in phases. We may have to build trust as we go along to make sure people understand that this can actually work. We are more than willing to assist in the process. As I said, I want to see more exchanges, not only between students, but between our state bars and the American Bar Association in the United States, which would be really important. It's a chance to exchange best practices and get to know each other as well. And so, let me just say in closing that in a global marketplace, those that are willing to adapt and innovate will retain the competitive edge. And I believe that holds true for the area of legal services as well. And I do congratulate all the stakeholders today for thinking about it in that way. Not we're tearing down a barrier, it's how do we make ourselves more competitive? How do we attract more business? How do we bring more talent and ingenuity here? Because I think that's the right lens for how to look at it. And I would say, again, bilaterally, our common values and our shared commitment to the rule of law is what underpins the strong partnership between the U.S. and India. And it's been these shared values that allow us to cooperate from the highest reaches of space to the depths of the ocean, to our defense partnership, to our trade relationship, and grow in so many other fields. And we only stand to benefit from extending our collaboration to the field of legal services as well. And as India continues to build its stature as a global leader in this, as in all fields, you will continue to have the United States as a close and trusted partner in this road ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Verma, for your rather inspiring set of reflections on a number of issues. As a lawyer, I can't but help reflect a little bit about, since most of the people in the audience are law students or lawyers, I have to say this, that I come from a city called Chennai, where almost all my cousins are doctors and engineers, and the day I decided to study law, there were some 25 of my relatives turned up at my home, and they were very anxiously looking at my parents and said, "What happened to Raj? He was a good student. What went wrong?" And then they asked, "Is there anything that we can do?" And then they said something like, "Tough times won't last long, and he will overcome this, and as a family, you will all overcome this." That was, of course, 2 decades ago, and things have dramatically changed. Today, some of the best and the brightest of Indian high school graduates are choosing law over many other professions, and a school like us, which is barely 7 years old, has seen an extraordinary group of young people choosing law over many other possibilities, and that is a testament to the evolution of legal education, legal profession. I also want to mention that, as Ambassador Verma mentioned, many young generation of Indian lawyers who had the opportunity to study in the United States have also been admitted to the New York Bar. I am myself admitted to the New York Bar. Almost, I would say 20-25 of our faculty members who have studied in the US are also admitted to the New York Bar. So this possibility of being admitted to the New York Bar has provided new opportunities for young Indian graduates to think about legal profession in a much more global manner. I also would like to add that our law school is one of the fewer law schools in India who has established substantive relationships with over 55 law schools in the United States. Over 500 students of Jindal have had the opportunity to pursue a number of programs in the United States, including having opportunity to pursue student exchange programs, dual degree programs, summer schools, winter schools, study abroad programs. and we've also had faculty level exchanges across many American law schools. So we are very fortunate that we've been able to build this relationship, and we're also grateful to the US Embassy here for supporting all of these initiatives. I just now would like to extend a warm welcome to a very distinguished speaker who was originally to be part of the panel, but was also kindly agreed to deliver the inaugural address. Sometimes these things are very technical, and Mr. Sudhanshu Pandey could not have been a better person to actually deliver the inaugural address, being the current Joint Secretary of the Department of Commerce, Minister of Commerce and Industry. He was part of the 1987 batch of the Indian Administrative Service. He served as the Managing Director of CITCO. He has over 30 years of experience of working in various sectors, including in finance, energy, and industry. He is also involved in the drafting of the policy of GATT, and currently is at the vanguard of establishing the legal and institutional framework which will provide, hopefully, for the opening up of the legal services. We are very fortunate that he has agreed to be part of this evening's discussion, and I am grateful to him for accepting to deliver the inaugural address. Mr. Pandey.
Thank you very much, Professor Rajkumar. Excellency Ambassador of United States of America, Professor Krishna, very illustrious gathering here, young, bubbling, energetic lawyers who are going to hold the flag all over the world, I am sure, with their brightest of minds. See, today, let me be very honest with you. In the Department of Commerce, how do we look at this entire issue, and what we have been trying in the government to work around? The issue, as I see, is actually much more to do with effective communication. Now, I'm being very honest, and unless we address some of those issues, perhaps the delay is going to be more and more. And when I'm talking of communication, this is basically the communication between various stakeholders and the legal fraternity. Today, India is home to largest number of registered lawyers in the world as one country, and their contribution to GDP is one of the lowest. Now, these are facts which you can verify. Reasons are many. When you come to Ambassador Richard is here, if you pick up top 100 firms, then almost 75% of the top 100 law firms are located in United States, which has a less than 1/10 the number of legal professionals compared to India. Now, how it has happened? And if you look at their revenue, then again, today the legal services, though accounts are not very accurate, but various surveys, various studies that come out with 2014, the legal services were roughly about $620 billion US. That was the market size. After 2008, it slightly depressed for next 3 years till 2008 till 2010. Then again it started growing, and from roughly 2008 around 500 billion, now it's about 2014 it was about 620 billion. And again, the Indian estimated surveyed market size is less than 1% of the total legal services market size. So roughly about 6.2 billion or so. Now, these are facts and figures which are very important for a perspective. India proudly claims, and rightly so, to be a country which is based on very solid foundations of not only democracy but rule of law. And when we talk of rule of law, then it has to be rule of law for everyone. And in this entire scheme of things, economy, which is the backbone of the growth of any country, plays extremely important role. Last 2 years, if you see the kind of reforms that India has undertaken, has actually taken world by surprise. The kind of liberalization that has happened, nobody expected can happen in next 20 years. But that has happened in just about 2 years. And more are coming. How do you sustain and how do you harvest the best fruits out of these reforms for the benefit of the growth of the country, growth of the economy, and growth of all professionals? Mention of doctors and engineers came. Yes, there was a time, and most of the doctors who passed out in India, they went to US and UK and appeared for their qualifying examination, US mainly in US. And today, even in US, you have one of the largest community of doctors of Indian origin serving there, who have become native citizens now, and they have earned a very respectable position for themselves in all fields. The UK, the entire national health program is actually sustained by Indian doctors, and if you remove their numbers, then the whole structure crumbles, and actually it cannot sustain itself. The limited point that I am trying to make is that India has always believed, Indian professionals have always believed in their intellect, in their hard work, and in their adaptability. Means you acquire best of the education wherever it is possible. You aspire to grow. You aspire to assimilate knowledge and adapt wherever you use that knowledge. This is the story of all other professions, scientists, pharma professionals. That would be the story for legal profession also. It is already happening. A lot of, out of roughly about 1,400,000 lawyers, the numbers that we look at, just about 200,000 are in the corporate business. The remaining 1,200,000 are basically in the litigation business in various sub-district, district and provincial courts. Now I mentioned the point of communication. Where we have erred perhaps in communication is communicating effectively with this 1,200,000 community, which when I interact at various levels, I get the impression that they feel that it is their job which is likely to be threatened. Nobody is competing for their job. Nobody is even looking at that option of practicing in sub-court or municipal court or district court. That is just out of question. But the impression that they carry is that the legal jobs and their profession will come under threat, which is not the case. So therefore, a very good communication and a very strong communication with this important stakeholder is necessary, and atmosphere is right. Second, very important, which happens, which is the feeling that is in the law. Firms, Chairman Mr. Bhasin is sitting here. See, Indian legal sector also needs a number of small steps, baby steps, which I would call domestic reforms. And these domestic reforms are nothing but basically they will make level playing field. As Ambassador Richard said, we have to allow competitiveness and Darwin's law, basically survival of the fittest. So you have to be struggling all the time, updating yourself, acquiring knowledge, competing with your counterpart, and delivering best for the consumer. Couple of things that Department of Commerce very clearly is looking at, and we feel that that is also coming in the way. Number one, market development is extremely important. Now, one of the limitations that you cannot even advertise your legal services is something which is now dated. What kind of advertisement should be there? You can have regulations around that. How much should be allowed? You can have regulation around that. But having a complete no-no for a profession where as a consumer, see, you have to see from the consumer's point of view. I have to make a selection from among whatever legal services are available. How do I know who is offering what, at what price? Some countries even allow disclosure of the price of legal services that the law firms are going to offer. So this is an extremely important dimension which needs to be taken care of. And this is going to provide both Indian law firms and the foreign law firms level playing field. Second very important is the nature of the partnership, the organization. If you look at, again, I would say pick up top 100 law firms, you will see the biggest law firm is somewhere of the size of 5,000 lawyers. And on an average, they are around 1,500 plus. And they have to compete, say in India, with firms which are pretty small in size. And as was stated here now, one is looking for all kinds of services, all kinds of jurisdiction, all kinds of laws. A company today, a multinational company, and many of the Indian companies have become multinational themselves. They offer wide range of services, wide range of products, wide options, and therefore for them it is always good to have a one-stop solution. They go to one company, one firm, and they will try to have solution for all their problems at one place because everything is interrelated. And therefore it is extremely important that some amendment has happened in the company law which allows now LLP structure, but how this effectively has to be made functional, that is an area which needs to be addressed through regulation. This is second point. Third, governance. Now, to be very honest with you, means at least commerce feels very strongly that the conflict of interest has to be removed. So a professional body has to govern itself as profession. It should have its own code of conduct. It should have its own ethics. What UK did in 2007, they came out with a comprehensive law, the Legal Services Act 2007. And what that Legal Services Act provided, now in UK, you have nearly 6 to 7 regulators for different aspects of legal services that are being offered in UK. For solicitors, you have Solicitor Regulatory Authority. For patent attorneys, you have another. For barrister, you have another. The reason is very simple. The reason is that each one of these segment of the profession has a different consumer requirement, different functional requirement, and therefore that needs to be regulated specifically. And therefore having right kind of governance structure is extremely important. And therefore we feel in the Department of Commerce that it is important that while we liberalize legal services, we also bring in place the right kind of governance structure which provides level playing field, it has transparency, it has predictability, and it can be fair to everyone. I will raise two more issues, and I feel I am taking liberty, they are extremely important, and the legal fraternity has to look at those issues. The professional indemnity insurance. Now today, I will speak largely from the point of view of consumer, because ultimately the legal profession has to give confidence to the customer that if he is not getting services as agreed to, or if he is getting deficient services, then what is the remedy available to me? Today, unfortunately, no remedy is available. The legal ombudsman. Now we have ombudsman in every area. Why there shouldn't be a legal ombudsman? Because these are all relevant issues. I would be very happy. Your law school is one of the leading law schools in the country. Students should study these areas, these subjects, under guidance of your professors, and come up with their own submissions. I am pretty confident the way the BCI has come out with the draft regulations already. They have initiated a process of consultation, that the process will move forward. But my concern is not that how it should be moving. My concern is that it should be moving in the right direction, with right governance structures in place, with right kind of regulations in place, so that it provides a level playing field to all stakeholders. It takes the concern of the consumers, largely consumers coming from outside India, within India. They all should get right kind of legal advice which they are looking at, and at no stage we feel that opening up of the legal sector is going to threaten or adversely impact anyone in India. Let me be very honest, it is going to be just the other way. The story is going to be another growth story, another story of success. The foreign law firms will open new opportunities for young Indian students. More and more people after class 12 will choose law as a profession, because this is going to offer them a very promising professional career. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and let us hope that we move in the right direction. With just last word of caution, that while we undertake this journey, we should very clearly come out with right governance structures in place, so that this journey is not bumpy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pandey, for setting the tone for the roundtable discussion, which will immediately follow. As you know, there is no break in between. We will immediately start the roundtable discussion. I have great pleasure in presenting a small memento as a token of appreciation for your visit here.